Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Katie and today I'm going to do a story time video on when I lost my mom. Um, First off, before I get into this, I will say that anybody who has ever lost a parent knows that it is really hard, and I just recently lost my dad this year also. But that's a whole different story on how that happened. And believe me, it's a really big old story. But I was 16 years old whenever my mom was diagnosed with cancer. My mom has always smoked. I believe, I can't be exact, but I do think she did tell me she started smoking like at 14 years old or something like that. Maybe younger, because I started smoking at 14 years old, so maybe that's how it's coming in my head. But I honestly don't know. I don't remember what she told me, but it was really young when she started smoking cigarettes. And she was the type that never go to the doctor, never get checked for cancer or cancer screenings or whatever. She didn't go to the doctor unless it was like she was dying or something. But yeah, she was diagnosed with cancer when I was 16 years old. And how I found out, well, how my family found out is I was over at my friend's house and I got a phone call from my sister. And my sister had told me that my mom had been in a car accident. Now, at that time, I didn't realize that it was cancer. I don't even think anybody did realize, but she did have a car accident with her boyfriend, and they went off into a ditch. Luckily, they weren't hurt from the actual car accident. They just kind of went off into a ditch and dented the car up a little bit, but they weren't hurt. But the reason that my mom actually drove off the road, well, veered off into the ditch, I want to say, she didn't like drive off, but it kind of slowly went off into the ditches. She was actually having seizures. Her boyfriend said that she started talking as if she was in the past. He was the only one there with her. It was just him and her in the car, so no one knows. We were just going by what he said. She was married to my stepdad, and she started acting like it was at that time, and that was between, I want to say, 2010 and 2012. And this happened in 2016 when she had a car accident. So she started going back like she was living in the past. She was calling her boyfriend her ex-husband's name, and he was asking her what was wrong with her, but he didn't realize that she was like having these little mini seizures, and then she had I guess a bigger one, and she ended up driving off the road. She wasn't hurt from that, but they didn't, they had to take her to the hospital because you don't just have seizures for nothing. So they took her to the hospital. That my sister called me. She's like, Mom had an accident. She's okay, but they took her to the hospital, and my heart just dropped because the only reason you go to the hospital, like rush to the hospital, she said they were she was taking to the emergency room in ambulance, is because something happened, right? They don't just like rush you to the emergency room if you're not hurt. I mean, you can go to the hospital, get checked out after a car accident, but to be rushed to the hospital, something's wrong. She wouldn't tell me what it was. I don't think she knew, but she knew something was up because my mom has not, she doesn't have any history of like epilepsy or seizures or anything. So for her just to have one out of the blue, something was wrong with her head. So my sister's husband at the time came and picked me up, and he took me to the hospital. They took her to the closest hospital, but they ended up taking her to a different hospital because the closest hospital was like a small hospital, and she needed to go to a bigger hospital that like can deal with what she had going on. And at the time, nobody knew what she had going on. My sister suspected. My sister knew something was going on. My sister's like worked in the medical field, so she knew something was going on, but no one had told exactly what had happened. So so my sister's ex-husband came and picked me up. He was talking to me like weird, like, your mom's okay, but something's wrong with her, and he wouldn't tell me really what was up, but it was just making me worry more. I mean, don't tell me nothing, or if you're gonna tell me something, tell me it all. Don't just tell me like little things that's just gonna make my mind go 1,000 miles an hour, because that's exactly what was going on. In my head, I had no clue what was going on. I just knew my mom was in an accident and she was at the hospital, and I needed to get there. So we drove, and the hospital we had to go to was like a 45-minute to an hour drive, so we went. I walked in there, and by the time I had actually gotten there and the time that he came and picked me up and I got in there, the doctor had told my sister and my mom that she had tumors all over her brain. They didn't know where she had cancer, like through her body, but they do know, like, the first thing they obviously did, because she had a seizure, was do a CAT scan on her head. So they did a CAT scan. They did tell her that she had tumors and that they were going to do like a bunch of other tests to see where else she had, if she had anything anywhere else. I want to say this all was like within an hour and a half to 2 hours from the time she had a car accident to the time I actually got to the hospital where she was at. I want to say an hour and a half to 2 hours. So in that amount of time, they told her she had tumors all over her head, that they were going to give her medicine to stop the seizures, because she was still having seizures because the tumors were pressing on her brain and making her have these seizures. And they put her on this seizure medication, and they told her that they were going to they're going to talk to a specialist to see what they could do about shrinking them or getting rid of them. Nobody knew at that time how severe her cancer was. She did a bunch more tests. I ended up going home. My sister has 4 kids, and my sister stayed at the hospital, and I went home and I watched her kids. Because my sister's husband worked. My sister worked, but she was older one. I was 16 at the time. So I had to stay home with the kids and do whatever I could. My mom ended up doing chemo and radiation. But whenever they did the test, they found out that she had cancer all through her body, and she was actually diagnosed as terminally ill. There was no going back. She was going to die from the cancer, that there was too much in her body that it was never going to go away, but eventually she would die. But they were going to try to do chemo and radiation to shrink it and to kill it, but they also did like a experimental type thing to see if it could prolong her life, because my mom was so bad by the time that this had happened that she was already I know there's different stages, and I don't really know what stage. I probably stage 4, but I know it's the worst you could be. But she was already they already told her that she was gonna die, that there's nothing they can do. They didn't know how long she was gonna last, because eventually either tumors are just gonna take over her, or the cancer's gonna it was all over her body, so it was gonna start messing with her organs, and she was gonna die from that, or it was inevitable. It was inevitable of no matter what, she was gonna die. At the time when I was 16, I didn't understand. I mean, I understood my mom was sick, and I understood that she was gonna die, but it didn't really I don't know if I can explain. It didn't really hit me until I actually got older, because my mom and I had a lot of problems. I guess whenever, I didn't know, but she used to talk to my sister about me, and my sister told me this after years later, and not even that long ago, actually. This year she told me that mom used to talk to her about me, and how mom never understood me, and she just thought I hated her, which was not true, because I actually fought for my mom to love me, but my mom just wasn't capable of it. My mom wasn't capable of showing me love. I know my mom loved me, but she was not capable of showing me love. Yeah, I lived in her house, and yeah, she bought me what I needed, but I wasn't allowed, like, to be in the same room as her and her boyfriend. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere with them. Whenever they ate, it was family meals, and I had to eat in my room. Like, family time, I could not be a part of it. I wasn't allowed around them. I wasn't a part of the family. It was separate, and I built up a lot of anger, so I wasn't, like, yeah, I was sad my mom was sick, but I had so much anger in me that it didn't, like, affect me. And I don't want to sound like I'm a bad person, but it didn't really affect me, like, big time until I got older. Because now I wish more than anything that I had my mom, because there's just some things in your life that you need your mom for. And I wish I would have been able to talk to my mom. Maybe she didn't realize what she did with, like, what she was doing with me and why I was so angry, but she was just, that's just how she was. And my sister knew that's how she was, but my sister didn't know the extent of how it was. And I used to tell my sister, I told my sister eventually, I was like, whenever you tell your mom that you love them and they scream at you for saying it, then how else are you supposed to feel? How else are you supposed to feel when you're like, I love you, Mom. Get out of here. What are you doing? I don't want you around me. You're driving me crazy. Like, that's not a response that you're supposed to get, right? And I just eventually quit telling my mom that, because why would I get yelled at more than I was already getting yelled at? They used to, like, if I was out of school and they were gonna go, they used to go, like, shopping and stuff on the weekends and go out and do different things. They would leave at like 5 or 6 in the morning just so I wouldn't go with them, because it was before I woke up. They literally, like, set their alarms and got up and got ready and left the house before I woke up just so I wouldn't go with them. And I was just left at the house all by myself. And then they would come home and they would have gone out to eat and went to the stores and did fun things and talk about it and be laughing, and I'm just, my mom's like, well, you weren't awake. Well, duh, I wasn't awake. I eventually overheard that it's because my mom's boyfriend didn't want me to go. That he didn't like me around, and my mom catered to him. She catered to him or any of her boyfriends, but he was her main boyfriend that she had since my stepdad. She always catered to her boyfriends before she ever even acknowledged me. That's not what this video is supposed to be about anyways, but yeah, as you can see, I had so much anger, and I probably still do. I know I still do. But a year went by and I got so angry because I was always watching my sister's kids, and I didn't have a life, and I just wanted to be gone from my house. I hated my house. I hated my life. I always wanted to be at my friend's house because at the time that I was really close with my friend and her mom. Like, I felt like they were my family, that I was supposed to be in their family. Like, I was just in the wrong family, and I was really close to them. And my friend's mom treated me like her own child, and I needed that from somebody, because I never really got that except for when I was like really young. Like 5 years old, 6 years old, because when my mom and my dad split up, I never received that kind of like parental love, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So whenever I met them and they treated me so good and they treated me like they actually cared, I was like, I never wanted to be in my house. And my sister had 4 kids, and I was always watching them like every single day, weekends, weekdays, every single day. But my sister, I was being very selfish, but at the time I had so much hate that I couldn't see that. My sister was taking care of my mom. My mom was having to go every single day for 3 weeks, take a 2-hour drive there and back, to her treatments, and then she would be so sick after her treatments. So 4 hours just driving, then the time at the actual hospital when she was receiving her treatment, and then the actual time of like when she came home and my sister had to take care of her and make sure she tried to eat something, which she didn't. She lost her appetite, and help her, like, she was really weak and she would get sick. I mean, if you've ever been around someone who's getting treatment for cancer, you know that they get really weak and they get really sick. So my sister was taking care of her because my mom's boyfriend didn't do nothing. Even though he had a job, he couldn't dare take care of my mom. And, well, yeah, it was really hard. It was a very hard year. And my mom ended up passing away 2 months before my high school graduation. I was 17 years old. It was right at that time whenever you're getting like your cap and gown, you're ordering your cap and gown, you're getting your senior pictures taken care of, you know, all that stuff that you do at the end of the school year. It was right at that time when all that stuff was happening, my mom passed away. And then at my graduation, actually it was 1 month. I don't know why I said 2 months, but she passed away in April, and I had my graduation in May. 1 month before my graduation. But yeah, April 2008, she passed away, and I graduated in May of 2008. And at the, like, whenever it actually happened, I didn't go to school for a week. And my teachers were very lenient on my schoolwork. And, I mean, you know, at the end of your school year, you have, like, your major projects due. Like, I had a major paper due for English and, like, all your final tests and stuff. And my teacher, luckily my English teacher was so, like, she gave me extra time and she helped me. And I remember I made, like, a low B or a high C on my paper, which I was not expecting. I know that's not great, but when something so bad happens in your life and you still manage to pull a passing grade, then I don't know, she might have just been kind of, you know, doing a little curve for me, because I mean, she knew that I was having a very hard time. But I remember coming to school, and one of the teachers had been gone for a couple of days, and she didn't know, and she came up to me. She knew my mom was sick, but she didn't know that my mom had already passed away. And she came up to me and she asked me how my mom was doing, and I told her, and she just started crying in the hall with me and started hugging me, and that just made me, like, it hit me. It hit me at that moment. And she didn't know my mom. She never met my mom. I mean, I wasn't like, I was one of her students, but it wasn't like, you know, I only talked to her when I was in her class. I never really talked to her outside of her class. And for her to feel so much, like, I could just tell that she was genuinely sorry, and she just hugged me and cried with me, and it hit me. I lost my mom. And then at graduation, like I was saying, like at graduation, they said, can all the parents of the graduating students please stand up and give yourself a round of applause for raising great children, raising great kids. And I just kind of looked down because I knew that no one was standing for me. My sister was at my graduation, but my sister didn't stand because it said parents. And well, yeah, you know, my sister was there and she was supporting me, but I just couldn't look up at all that. I couldn't look up in the bleachers and see that, because I knew that I wasn't gonna see nobody there for me. And I was still angry at this point. I was still very angry. I would have my moments. I mean, I kind of did go crazy. And I did a lot of weird things after that. But, I mean, I traveled across the country. And, I mean, I did it 2 times. Not only once, I traveled across the country 2 times. And that's when I came back to California after I graduated. I came back to California. I was born here in California, and I moved to Tennessee when I was 12 years old, but I miss Tennessee as far as like the atmosphere, but I would never go back because it's not the same. You can never go back. I tried 2 times and it's not the same. I have no one there anymore, so my family's here. But yeah, that's my story of me losing my mom. If you've ever lost, if you've lost a parent or anybody in your life, I'm very sorry. All I can tell you is that it does get easier. Never goes away. And I really am sorry. Like I said, I lost my dad this year too. And that was an eventful trip. If you guys want to hear that story, I don't know if you guys would want to. I mean, it's really sad, but if you guys would like to hear that story, let me know. And I really do appreciate you guys watching and listening to my story. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, please be sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.